We're
Boom.
live.
Let's go. We're live. We're rocking and
Morning.
rolling.
Good early morning to Cody too.
Morning.
Man. Are you naturally an early riser?
No, not necessarily. I have a 2-year-old, so I wake up when needed, and so sometimes it's sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 7, but I don't have any early work scheduled at the gym because my mornings can be there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, variables.
Well,
for sure.
we needed you this morning, Cody. So thank you for 6 a.m. over there. 6 a.m. Right?
There you go. Yeah, can't wait.
Awesome. Well, stoked to have you back on. Always a great discussion. Always feels like this thing can go like 2, 3, 4 hours if we let it. So excited to dive back in. And I know the last time I felt like selfishly I was getting all the questions about Olympic weightlifting and my thoughts between like how we do it in CrossFit and how you guys do it more sport specific wise. I was selfishly getting all my questions answered. And this week we want to discuss more on how we can take this and apply it actually in the gym, and how coaches can take something so great as Olympic weightlifting and actually deliver it to a class of varied athletes like we see at a CrossFit gym day in and day out. And so you had a great list of things that we could go over. But the first one I want to discuss is, how do you effectively teach Olympic weightlifting, but do so in a way to where it's not like we're running a weightlifting seminar? Because it's like, I can fall down the trap of talking knuckle position and, dynamic starts and stuff like that. And then I see people's eyes gloss over, and it's like, what's the balance, and how do we do that in our gym settings?
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge challenge. It really is. I think maybe just one step bigger picture. I think it starts from a place of understanding just the dynamic of your audience. If you think about, I talked about this at Affiliate Con, but I like to put everybody kind of in 4 buckets. Every person on earth is in 4 buckets. The 3 buckets that exist inside your gym is there's about 10% of your current audience, your current members, that they don't love the lifts. They're not super stoked about them. They didn't know that they had to be Olympic weightlifters to get fit, to get in shape. They kind of like frown or get a little like, oh man, I didn't know it was snatches today. I would have stayed home. That's 10%. You've got an 80% chunk in the middle that they really like them. They've seen some success. They understand it's part of the program. It's turned into maybe their favorite part of doing CrossFit. And they know that the better they get at the lifts, everything else gets better. And then you got this 10% on the other end that they want to perform, compete, optimize, maximize. They're going to do some extra work as well. And one thing that's challenging is I think that we just assume everyone's in that 80% in the middle, and we forget that there's this 10% that we need to drag into the middle. And then there's this 10% up here that we want to make sure that we're not neglecting, because if they slide back to the middle, they're going to ping because they no longer got the fun push that they were getting. And then there's the 4th bucket of people that maybe left your gym because they found these movements intimidating, or they haven't joined because they know that it's part of your gym. And I think it's our job to break down that barrier of, you are a weightlifter, and let's make sure that we're doing this safely, effectively, efficiently. Let's make sure we're establishing really strong expectations and laying the foundation and understanding for you that we're going to work on progress, not perfection, because the truth is there's no such thing as perfection with the Olympic lifts. The 3 of us could watch some videos of some world records from this last year, and we could break it apart and find a lot of opportunities for improvement. And that doesn't say much about us as coaches. It says a lot more about the movements themselves.
Right.
So I think starting there is really important. Understanding your buckets of people, and that's how we communicate, teach, push these movements is going to be really important. Also, as coaches, and then now let's just kind of go practical application. As coaches, we just know so much, right? We're so smart. We have so much information to give that when we get into a weightlifting class, this is our chance to show how much we know. And now we've talked so much that nobody's done any reps. I think weightlifting days are the days more than anything where I would do this early on with my coaches for coach development. I would have 2 stopwatches. I'll run this one when you're talking, and I'll run this one when they're moving. And if there's a huge ratio there, obviously it's not effective class. I think weightlifting days are the days where we can talk way too much. So my favorite approach for the Olympic lifts is a model called the gradual release model, or the gradual release of responsibility. Have you guys heard of that at all by chance?
I have not.
No. Okay. I would bet that you're probably doing it anyways. The way I was kind of introduced to it was actually from my mom. My mom is she's a teacher. She's been the head of curriculum for Washington State, federally as well. And so she's an educator. And so she was also a member of my gym for like 15 years. And so she came to a course one day, this is probably 12 years ago. And she's like, do you guys know that you're doing the gradual release model? And I was like, I had no idea. And so then when I looked into the details of it, I was like, well, this is exactly how we were taught to coach, but understanding the phases of it really helped me break down why I do what in certain phases of a class. And so basically the idea here is we want to build independence. And so it's also called the gradual release of responsibility model. So early on in the class, coach has high responsibility, athlete has low responsibility. And over time, we're going to drip that over to the athlete. Because the truth is athletes get better when they own the project. And so the first one is I do. So the coach is going to do, we're going to demo the movement. We're going to talk about a couple of points of performance, the details. This is maybe where we would talk about bar path, balance on the feet, whatever the specific kind of focus was for the day. I'll show a piece. They're going to watch. They're going to listen. They aren't even really moving yet. And this is the phase that can really get become too long, right? This can be in a CrossFit class or even a weightlifting session. This can be the piece that should be half as long as you want it to be as a coach. The next phase, this is where we can really make our money as coaches, is the we do phase. So it's I do, we do, you do. We're handing off ownership of the task. And we do is kind of guided practice. This is where we're really going to teach, see, correct. We're going to do a rep, give feedback, do a rep, give feedback. You've got the group on their feet. They're doing the drills. This is where you can really see a lot of improvements, give a lot of feedback. Coach responsibility has come down a little bit because now they're moving. Athlete responsibility has come up. And now what you're doing is you're establishing a language for brevity in your cues and corrections moving forward. So now you're taking these, this kind of maybe lecture-ish or long-winded talking in the I do phase. You're trimming it and establishing language so that when you make corrections later, you're on the same page. The next phase, and this is one that I see skipped quite a bit, is the you do phase, but it's collaborative practice. And collaborative practice can be one of two things. One, the coach is still in charge of command and control. So when I move, or when you move, when you do what, or this can be with a teammate or kind of a hybrid. But what we found is people learn better together. And so one of my favorite tools for Olympic lifting days is to work in teams of 2, work in teams of 3. And I will give the athletes, they're not coaches. I'm not expecting them to coach, but what I want is for them to look for 1 or 2 things specifically. They are empowered to give that feedback to their teammate if they want to, but if they don't, that's okay. It's still my job. I'm still the coach, right? But I found that people will always move better when they watch somebody else move in between their own movements, especially for things dynamic like the Olympic lifts. There's just data that's coming in. There's focus that's improving when I'm not worried about myself. I'm not drinking water. I'm not loading weights. I'm focused on you. It keeps me in flow state. It keeps me engaged so that when I go next, I'm just a little bit more tapped in, tuned in. And I found a lot of success with that.
So let's talk about what that, so I think I get the idea of all that. I do, we do, you do. So if we think about that in the sense of coaching a class and say it's a heavy day and we're snatching for that day, I think of that as essentially in my teaching process, we've got the tell, show, do, check process, right? So the tell and the show is me doing it. The we do is when I'm calling reps and giving feedback of them doing that. So it's kind of like that's tied together, I would say, in the teaching, right? The I and the we. But then the we also happens in the loading phase where they're starting to load up a little bit, and maybe we're doing a little bit more of the seeing and correcting. And I've seen it done multiple ways in classes, but sometimes coaches get through the progression and the teaching, and then they're like, all right, guys, take the next 8 minutes to load up, and then we're going to start on the clock after that. I've also seen where coaches will be like, all right, we've gone through the teaching, add your first weight 10s or 15s to the bar, and I'm going to call some reps. So that would probably be a more directed version of we do. And then to your point, we partner them up and they do. But I love the fact of like, not only are they with partners, because it's always more fun to lift with partners, but then the partners get a chance to evaluate, which also to your point allows them to learn it a little bit more. Is that what that looks like in an actual class setting?
100%. Tell, show, do is a really great, it's pretty much on the nose. Like I said, you're probably doing this model without knowing it. I also think that tell, show, do can be plugged into any of those phases, but the depth and detail of maybe what you give them is going to change a little bit too. But no, that's exactly right. And then there's a fourth phase, which is you do independent practice. And I think as coaches, we get so wrapped up in phase 1 and phase 2 because that's where we're coaches. But we forget that most of the learning, most of the improvement comes from the we do and the you do, right? For them actually doing the task, either on their own with the teammate. That's where they get better. Like, similar to like your coach progression, when you're bringing up a new coach, no amount of them shadowing you or you shadowing them makes them good at coaching classes. They need to own the floor. They need to be in charge. They need to run it without you there. It's kind of the same with some of our movements. I need to own this thing and have that independent time to really be able to progress and push. And like you said, you can get there quickly and have more of that time, or too quick and there was no guidance. You can not have enough time independent and you miss some opportunities. The goal would be to have some balance and having an appropriate amount of each phase in that 1 hour class. Also, the important thing here is a recap at the end. So this is, near the end of the lifting session, this is not when you're going to give detailed cues corrections, because I'm in peak go mode. I like to think of like an archer, right? Like the early phases is like I'm pulling back, I'm aiming, I have a lot of impact on where this arrow goes. But once I let go, I can't be the archer anymore. I'm at best the wind. So give cues and corrections that are wind-esque. My archer time is behind me. And then at the end, you bring everybody back. And if you want to give cues, corrections there, give it to them as a group, not individual specific call outs. You should have done this. You should have done that. Hey, as a team, I saw some really great stuff. I think we're going to work on balancing in the foot as we come up. I saw a little bit of shifting. That's on me. Next week, we'll work on that and keeping the bar close. So you have like a little wrap up. You can talk about goods, bads, but make it as a group thing, not a individual thing there. And then that's your 1 hour class.
That's cool. That's an awesome analogy. I'm like, my brain is just trying to think like, okay, what the difference between the archer cues and like cues like the wind. Can you just give a couple examples there?
Yeah, for sure. I think even, so like holding positions, pauses for your archer time is when you're going to have your drills, right? Your progression, you're going to do for us, your Burgener warm up, your skill transfer exercises. And then like for the snatch, your 3-position snatch, high hang, and then the floor. This is where you're going to give really big, not that the cues are different, but I'm going to maybe stop you, hold here, go from that. So I don't know that the cues necessarily are bigger, but the enforcement of them might be stronger.
You just have a little more time too.
A little bit more time. Yeah.
And I think the point that you make of people, they really start to learn when they're doing it on their own and they're taking ownership of that. And I think that can be a challenge, especially for a lot of newer coaches, where it's like, it's when you start coaching and you finally are able to see movement, specifically like dynamic stuff, and you're able to identify things that are going wrong. I know I've done it. I've seen other coaches do it to where it's like you see something wrong, you cue it. And in something like the snatch or the clean, sometimes the athlete needs a couple reps to try to let what you said or what you're telling them to do sink in. But it's like, we teach people that they need to cue and they need to check back and see if it's happening and be relentless. And then a coach is watching and it's like, it's not right. You cue them. Nope, it's still not right. You cue them again. It's still not right. You're cueing them again. And it's like, dude, if I'm the athlete, I'm like, bro, get away from me. Let me figure this stuff out. Let me do a couple reps to kind of try to let this sink in and let me figure this out a little bit. And that's such a fine balance from a coach's point of like, hey, I'm going to tell them the one thing. I'm going to give them some guidance, whether it's better or worse, but I got to give them enough space, especially on one of those heavy days. Let them do a couple reps and see if that can start to sink in or if they can figure it out. Yeah.
It's a huge challenge. I think one thing that I try to do that helps me a little bit is I think of it, like those early phases that's my time and then your time. That
reminds me of Goonies.
I was just going to say that.
Our time down here. This is our time.
And then now I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to go down. This is our time.
I mean, he's got the MTV shirt on. We're going way back. Yeah.
I love that you said that because that's exactly what's going on in my brain. Oh man. Okay.
So I feel like that.
What were we talking about?
Who knows? I feel like that relentless piece is vital for improvement. Right? Like that's what gives you the ingredients for them to cook on their own. And so like the my time phase is where I'm going to err on the side of overcoaching. And then when it's their time to do, I will deliberately err on the side of undercoaching. And so for me, that's going to give me a pretty good balance for the day. But as a coach, you have to be really honest with yourself. And then after that class, you have to ask, was that the right balance? Did I get that right? And the truth is it's really challenging. It's, I don't know, maybe it's like teaching a kid how to ride a bike. No one tells you when to let go of the bike. You just have to feel it, figure it out. And
sometimes you do it at the wrong time.
Yeah. If you didn't do it right. And so you have to it takes those repetitions and be willing to be really happy with the product that you brought to the class, but also be tough on yourself of like, if I could do that same class again, I would change this. I would have gotten through this a little bit quicker. I would have made sure that I hit this point here because I saw a lot of people not finishing, a lot of people not getting triple extension. I was so worried about the turnover today that I forgot to really emphasize the jump. And so everyone was trying to be fast with the hands, but nobody had speed and height on the bar. That's on me. I just swung my focus too far for a niche and I missed the big thing. So next class, I'm going to over adjust and fix it this way and go from there. Another thing I like to focus on when it's especially movements like the Olympic lifts where they're dynamic is just paying attention to like, if I could teach this class again, what two people would I spend more time with? What two people would I spend less time with? And then I'm either going to write that down in my journal or make a mental note of it. Okay, I didn't spend quite enough. I would have spent more time with Gary. Guess what? Next time I see Gary, he's my first touch and my last touch on every step of the progression to overcorrect for that. And just like people need time and exposure to these movements, they also need time and exposure to us. And so that's one that's not specific to the movements themselves, I guess, but I really like that too. Who needed more of my time and make sure I get it to them next time.
Yeah, and there's so many elements to keep in mind when we're trying to find that balance, right? It's like not only do we want to find a balance of how much we're talking, but we want to find the balance of how much we're focusing on one point of performance versus another and finding a balance of how much we're focusing on that person versus that person. And it can be so much and it can be really overwhelming. And I think there's also a misconception that I love when you said there's times that it's appropriate to undercoach. I'm kind of putting that in quotes, right?
Sure.
Because I think there's a misconception that we have to just be 100% like machine gun the entire session. Otherwise, we're leaving things on the table and we're not doing what we're supposed to. But there's certainly strategies. And that's what I love about this. I do, we do, you do, and the systems that we teach with Tell Show do. It's all of these things are just ways that we can try to structure this crazy balance that can be really, really hard to implement in real life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like the class has no regard for I do, we do, you do. It just helps me structure to this like science and art I'm trying to create to get people good at movement, right? No, it's really true. It's hard to get right, but it's a pretty fun task to take on, right?
It is. Yeah.
Well, and your point on the self-evaluation, like not only is that going to be important so you give the right people attention, the appropriate attention next time, but most of us have the opportunity to coach multiple classes in a day or back to back. And also most coaches out there don't get a lot of feedback. And so if they don't have the ability to self-reflect and be like, man, all right, what went well in that class? What could I have done differently? How can I implement that going forward? There's not going to be a lot of progress made. So I love the fact that you call that out. It's like every class that we finish, even if we've got another class backed up to that one, we should take a moment to think for a second, what went well, what could have been different, and then not only try to implement it differently next time you see those specific athletes, but you should try to implement it differently for the next class that you get the opportunity to coach. Because although Gary just was in class, I'm going to have another Gary in my next class, and I can be like, that's the guy that I'm going to give more attention to, and Susie or whoever is the one I'm going to step away from. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I agree with that completely. There's this note here. We have to make sure we spend the appropriate amount of time with our beginners and our advanced athletes. It's easy to be like, okay, Snatch, this is hard. You're new. You get all my time.
Yep.
And the truth is, remember those buckets, 10%, 80%, 10%. Everyone needs the same amount of time, but what you give them in that time is going to be what changes. I see coaches a lot. Maybe you guys have dealt with this. Coaches are intimidated to teach things like the Olympic lifts or like muscle ups, things that like people in my class are better at doing it than I am at teaching it. That can be a scary thing. One tool I like for that for a newer coach is like start with a question. Don't feel like you have to give them this perfect cue first. Open up the dialogue between you and them and ask them. Our job is to maybe facilitate learning, facilitate improvement. Open up with a question. Because if you're in that top 10%, you maybe have a good amount of experience. You maybe kind of know what you are thinking about working on, but open with a question like, how are those feeling today? What's your best lately? How many of those can you do unbroken? And just start the conversation there. And then that will maybe give you a lane. It will show you what lane you have to start giving some feedback there. But I think a lot of coaches are intimidated of this 10% in addition to assuming that they're good on their own.
That's cool. So it sounds like you're not even really overthinking the question. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the right question. It's just throwing something out there to get a dialogue started. Just it could be as simple as like, how are you feeling today? What are you thinking for the sets or anything?
It's allowing the coach to not have their first transmission feel like it's a pass fail. Right. So the first time I talk to this athlete that's better than me, so scary because I'm like, what if I say the wrong thing, cue the wrong thing? What if I give them a cue and actually it's wrong? Like we're so worried about saying the wrong thing. So just ask, open up the room, right?
Everyone's going to find out I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I did the math on this like a bit ago. I think I've coached like 19,000 classes.
Oh, wow.
I start every class with that feeling of like, they know I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Not going to get it right today.
Never goes away. Yeah.
So with that, if we think about the 10, 80, 10, it can be really challenging for newer coaches to figure out how do I scale this thing appropriately. And I think this time of year, especially, this is with the New Year's popping up and just passed. We've got people out there that have their New Year's resolutions. Maybe we've got some new people in the gym. And to Jens's point, we've got those beginner athletes. This might be people's very first time. And so say this week, we do have heavy snatches and, it's 7 sets of 1 rep. We're looking for 1 rep max. And you got somebody brand new, not only has never done this before, they're a little nervous. They're a little intimidated. They're probably not ready for much more than a PVC pipe or like a training 15-pound bar or something like that. How do you coach that class to allow the adaptation, to allow the experience to be the same for that person that's maybe going to use the PVC pipe the entire time? And then you got other people over there that are going to be looking towards, 100 kilo or whatever it is that they're trying to hit. How do you manage that at your gym?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, so having some scaling is going to be your best friend in this situation. But I think the challenging part is how do you get to those scales? And so the way that we start every class is assuming that people have maybe never seen the movement before. And so we're going to always start at the top with our starting position, and we're always going to start at the top with our receiving position. So snatch, for example, high hang is as high as you can start. Muscle is as high as you can receive. So our first snatches of the day will be high hang muscle snatches. As you show me proficiency there, we can start lower, we can receive lower, and we're going to go from there. And then what this does is it sets a kind of a map for me of, okay, Todd, for you today, you're still new at my gym, and it kind of fell apart at the hang. I'm not going to say this to you, but I'm going to say, hey, Todd, today we're going to work on the high hang or the mid thigh position. And so we're going to go uphill 1 from where you fell apart. And that's where we're going to really drill today and go from there. Kristen, you were looking really good at the hang, but then below the knee, things kind of got wonky. And so then we would make the choice. We were going to one uphill or stay at the one that's wonky and really see some improvement there.
Fine tune it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that by starting everybody high hang, working your way down, not only do you improve positions for your advanced athletes, but now you kind of you've seen where their movement is starting to fall apart. And now I have a map. And the way I would maybe just broadcast this is, hey, at our gym, it's kind of known that how these warm-up drills go will affect where you lift from today. You kind of prove your positions for the day. And then it's not, hey, we're doing full snatches from the floor, everybody, except for you because you're new. Like, I don't want that. I want to avoid those call-out moments. I think that can be just as intimidating as the movements themselves. And so if it's just known that it's part of the plan of we're going to practice here, work our way down, where you get stuck is where you're going to play today, that can be really valuable. I think in general, for the Olympic lifts, range of motion is your best friend for scaling. For most of our movements, it's our least favorite. Load, reps, range of motion. Range of motion is going to be our last choice because it's so important for so many reasons. But for the Olympic lifts, because there's change of direction, there's such mobility, stability, and coordination requirements. The feet move. It's so dynamic that the athleticism to me is more important than your starting and ending position. If I can get somebody jumping, pulling under, and moving their feet into a high hang power snatch, man, I'm really excited about that, more so than muscling kind of a crummy snatch from the floor. The athleticism matters. So that's why the range of motion can be a really great tool for scaling.
Which is super cool because we have to remember that they're hopefully coming on a regular basis and they're going to be exposed to many other things. So we hit range of motion on another day. We hit range of motion on another movement. And this is a scenario where it makes sense. There's a reason behind it. So I'm assuming this happens with a PVC pipe, like every time.
Yeah. So for the snatch, I always start with PVC no matter what. Even there was some times where we would say, like, we're going to do the Burgener warm-up skill transfer exercises. I know that's 2.5, 3 minutes, 10 drills, 3 reps each, right? 30 reps with some brief commands in between. We're going to do Burgener warm-up skill transfer exercises. Grab a PVC or a barbell. If you know you're a barbell person, you know to grab it. If you don't, you just follow the PVC line.
If you're not sure, grab the PVC.
That means you're,
And I saw some success there, but I think that, to be honest, I think that even your athletes that could use PVC, that they could use a barbell, I think there's still value in PVC reps for those.
I love
athletes.
starting with a PVC.
Yeah, and so I've really gone back to this last few years. If our initial wave, let's just start with PVC, especially for the snatch. Now the clean, I never start with PVC.
Yeah,
the front rack is just too kind of like contrived. I don't like it. Same with the overhead series, push jerk, push press, jerk. I'll start with a little bit of weight or a barbell, but snatch always PVC.
Okay.
And so then in those early drills, we are going from 0 weight, general warm up, PVC. Then we'll go empty barbell. What I'll do after the Burgener warm up skill transfer exercises is I'll do a 3-position snatch with PVC. And then we'll put those away, get a bar out. We'll do one more round of position drills together. And this is going to be what's specific to the task for the day. So if today's task is power snatch plus hang squat snatch, that's when we'll do the barbell drills there. and then kind of go from there. So I might not do the 3-position snatch, PVC and barbell. I would just transition in. And also, like we talk about range of motion being a really great scaling tool. In those early drills with the Burgener warm-up, skill transfer exercises, you can still have them really push range of motion there. Because if you get to an unsafe or imperfect position with PVC, it's not optimal, but it's not dangerous. It's a really good time to play with it. Like, okay, you're at depth, but you're really losing midline. Okay, because we're moving slow enough, we're moving light enough that it's a good time to be imperfect, improve, and then reinforce that. That's why we like 3s for the Burgener warm-up, by the way. Do it, improve it, reinforce it. That's a really benign place to, like, you know, play with range of motion and control, but it's also going to let you see maybe who you're going to be able to push today, who you might have to hold back, you know, when you're kind of requiring that range of motion there.
So let me ask you this. You made mention that you're going to scale range of motion, and there's going to be certain people in class that stick with like a high hang power snatch or a hang power snatch. When do you inform them that that's where they're going to be? I'm assuming obviously your progression is going to move through the full range of motion. So if it's squat snatch day, you're going to work all the way down to pulling from mid shin, receiving in the overhead squat. So is it like after we transitioned from the PVC pipe, we let everybody do the progression with the PVC pipe, we're now redoing the 3-position snatch with the barbell? Are you going to stop people there? And if so, is there a call out moment there? Or is it like I get through with the barbell, and then as people start loading, I go one off and individually and give them some feedback?
That's amazing. That's a great question. My goal is to have the receiving position established as I move away from the PVC, so that as we get barbells, everyone knows where they're going to be receiving at. So in the PVC drills, I'll say, okay, Gary, come up a little bit. Good, nice, taller chest, make those improvements. And then they know, hey, feel that. That's where I want you today with the barbell.
And do you say that specifically, Gary, that's where you're going to receive today, even if that's power or whatever?
There you go. Yeah. So what I want, Gary, so if that's your bottom position, what I want you to think about is receive it a little higher than that, absorb it, and then stick it tight. Okay. And then you see one of those. Okay, that's where I want you. Can you, and then little back feedback. Do you feel where you're at? Can you feel where you're at here today? And then go from there. So if I've got a group of 12, that means in those PVC drills, I've got to really,
you're working
everybody. Yeah. And then where you'll really see the adjustments for the starting position is once you get to the barbell drills, because now you've got the bar pulling you forward a little bit if you're off balance, if your posture's off, that's where you'll really start to see those. So when we get to the barbell drills, then I'm going to start adjusting the starting positions as needed. So
that's cool. I like that.
And that's nice too, because it just kind of gives you one thing to do at a time.
Yeah.
Love it.
Can I answer this question really quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's where we want to go to next.
How do you mix up your progressions to keep them fresh and avoid being repetitive? Oh man, here's the deal. We love variance. It's a big part of CrossFit. It's a huge deal. To get decent at weightlifting, there's part of us that needs to get really good at the basics, really good at the simple stuff. So here's what I do. Very similar to what I said a minute ago. Every time that we have a weightlifting day, Olympic lifting day, I'm gonna have a general warm up. There can be variance here, right? There can be some variety there. How we open the class. I want elevated heart rate. I want your joints to go through a full range of motion. I want you jumping and landing. I want you just physically ready for any task. And that could be 3 to 8 minutes, right? So there's some fun, there's some variety there to get people excited. When it comes to our drills, I think it's really important to do things the same every time. Make unknown things known as much as possible. There's a reason at a weightlifting meet, you see every single athlete, they have all 20 of their lifts, all 15 of their lifts already written out, because they're going to do the exact same thing at a meet that they do in training. We want to get good at doing the same thing over and over. So for me, Burgener warm-up, skill transfer exercises for the snatch, and then 3-position snatches. If it's a clean and jerk day, I'll do the Burgener warm-up for the clean, and then I'll do the skill transfer for the jerk, and then I'll move on and I'll add one phase of either the specific drills that we have for the day, or one more progression, one more primer that would really help them out. So the general warm-up is my favorite time to add variance, and then after the 3-position work is my favorite time to add one more there. Tough to drive that home for OGs and regulars. That's true. This is a good place for a question too. Like, do you want to get better, or do you want to stay OG 80% decent, and not in a confrontational way, but just be like, hey, like this isn't the fun part. This is our preparation phase. This is you studying and doing your homework. Because in 20 minutes, I'm going to let you loose to go do cool stuff. This isn't the sexy part. This is where we focus a little bit. It might be a little bit dry or benign, but it's going to carry over in 15 minutes as you build to your lifts for the day. And so it can be challenging. I think maybe just go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think this is where our ability to coach really shines through, because a lot of times those OGs or regulars that are the better athletes in our gym, especially if we've got brand new people, it's like, it's the new year, we got a bunch of new people, all our attention goes to the new people. And if we're not cueing and correcting and giving some guidance and giving things to work on, that's when it can become monotonous. But if I'm looking at Cody and I'm like, hey, today, I really want you to, work on your drive. So I want you to think about squeezing your quads at the top of every single lift to make sure they're opening their hips, and you're giving some feedback there. I think it makes it a little bit easier to buy in. If you're just having them go through the motion and they never get attention and they're never getting feedback, then it can turn into like, why am I doing this? It's the same thing. You're never telling me anything. I'm not getting better. So I think maybe a combination of those two things.
Yeah,
Cool.
making the corrections. I completely agree. Making the corrections with each rep, calling people's names. If you're in the back quarter of the classroom, calling the name of someone who's all the way in the front, having a presence, keeping it fun, making jokes. All of those things can be sprinkled on top of the fact that you're doing the same progression you always do. And it's not just you being like, go, reset, go, reset, go, reset. Because yeah, that is boring. But there's so many ways that we can sprinkle in fun and engagement and make this repetition that is valuable. There's so much value in repetition. We can make it to where it's not boring.
Love it.
You just have to work a little hard, and have a plan for it.
Yeah.
That's so true.
I think to Judy's point, can you pull somebody up who's a good mover as your demo, as you cue and coach? I think that's great. That's a great way to shine some light on somebody that moves well and highlight them. I'd give them a heads up before class if you're going to do that, of like, hey, Kristen, I'm going to bring you up front. You mind? You good with that? Or you need to have the rapport that if you want to show one rep, hey, we're going to watch Kristen real quick, and she's not going to be embarrassed or melt under the spotlight, which, we know Kristen won't. But anyways, I think that's something
That's a
cool
great
there.
strategy here.
No, strategy. I would also just add one thing. Don't always bring the same person up front.
Yeah.
Right. Because one, even if they move really well, they have some quirks. And then culturally, do you know how empowering it is the first day you get asked to come up front and demo? So give that opportunity to somebody else too. But no, that's one of my favorite strategies, because also it now frees me to move more because I'm not stuck up front. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. I think this is huge. We were talking, I think on my group call potentially yesterday, I think Judy was on it, was cueing the best movers. I always make a point, if I've got other coaches or gym owners or high level athletes, absolutely. It's I am going to intentionally make sure that I'm cueing the heck out of them. Number one, everybody needs to move better. If you guys haven't been in the knowledge and watched the video of Cody just kicking my butt when we were at Affiliate Con, teaching me how to actually move my feet and be an athlete, which I still haven't figured out how to do very well. Everybody needs that stuff. So I think what Vicente says here is throw loud cue out to the best movers. And that just paints the picture of it's not lost on anybody in the class who the best athlete or the best mover is. And so you've got those new people that are insecure, that are getting cued a ton. If they notice that even the quote unquote best person in there is getting cued and corrected, it makes it much easier to be like, oh, it's just part of it. I'm not getting isolated. I'm not getting picked on. Everybody gets it. So I think that's huge.
I think the whole, to sum this whole rabbit hole up, I would really encourage you guys to not get caught in the trap of the mindset that doing the same progression is boring and repetitive, because it does not have to be, but it's our responsibility to find ways to make it not boring.
Love it.
All right. Oh, I got to put this up just because Jens is, I don't know if this is the smile means he's making a joke of me or not.
He's making a joke.
I'm sure he is. But I'm gonna take it as not sarcasm and wear that anyways.
All right, we'll give that to
give
you.
that
That's
to
our
me.
gift to you, Todd. You just take that as
just
truth.
don't watch the video of Cody coaching me and
So hard to
proving
coach.
that it's not close.
It was so perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So we've talked about how do we navigate coaching class and coaching these lifts without making it like a seminar? How do we scale appropriately to where everybody, the 10%, the 80%, the 10% are getting the proper attention and still getting enough out of this on a given class? The next thing that I'm curious about is a lot of the feedback that we get from specialists or the people that still criticize CrossFit for being too random or too varied. It's like, what is the minimum effective dose to actually get better at this stuff? Like Vicente asked the question about providing variance in the teaching in order to keep it fresh. And you made the point, which I think is absolutely correct and solid, of like, we need repetition to actually get good at these things that take such high skill. So on average, how much do we need to do these lifts to actually get better at them?
Yeah. So this is relatively anecdotal, just to be upfront. But I've noticed that we need to see, so snatch, clean, jerk, we need to see 2 of them a week. And
2 of them a week.
Wow.
Okay.
2 of them a week. And so if you have a clean and jerk day, whew, good to go. You're checked off. If it's a snatch, if we have a snatch lifting day, that means that we have to find a way to get some cleans or some jerks in. Now, luckily in CrossFit, we might see them, but in a different kind of application, right? I've got cleans, but it's not a lifting clean day. It's a barbell cycling clean day, things like that. So that's the minimum effective dose to kind of sustain or to see minimal improvement long-term. And that's not a bad thing when it comes to our big picture goal, right? Our goal might not be to thrive and really skyrocket our improvement as weightlifters, because it's one of the things that we're trying to do as CrossFitters. So when I say, minimal improvement, that's not a bad thing. Also, if you're newer, 2 out of the 3 per week, you will see significant improvement for the first year, and then you'll plateau into kind of like a nice GBP homeostasis, and then kind of go from there. So for a lot of our people, that's going to be enough. Now that can be hard to get in when you're looking at programming for your gym, right? For decades, Coach Burgener has said, do the Burgener warm-up skill transfer exercises every day for the rest of your life. And it's kind of a joke, but also like it's not a bad thing.
Like, why are you guys laughing?
Yeah.
It's like, it is a joke, but so we started putting out like the Burgener warm-up 30-day challenge. Once you come to one of our courses, we reinforce the value of do these every day for 30 days. And I can't tell you the last time I had a course where a month later I didn't get an email back of like, dude, I did them every day and I PR'd. These are people that have been lifting for a while. They've been doing CrossFit for a while. They've been coaching. And so they're maybe in that GPP plateau. And then they just added that to their week for 4.5 weeks and they PR'd. And so the nice thing is, if I look at my gym programming this week, we didn't snatch this week, but I took the time to do the Burgener warm-up, or 10 drills with a PVC, took 2 minutes. I did it twice this week. I still did get exposure to those. So
wait, so you did the Burgener warm-up even on days that you weren't actually snatching?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially, you got a 5K run. What else are you going to do?
Right.
You got to entice people into the door anyways, right?
Yeah, today we're gonna do some lifting and then a short run.
Then we're gonna do a short run, and then it's the lifting with a PVC pipe for 2 minutes, and then
All right, shoes on. Let's go outside. Because if you think of our 10 skills, none of the movements that we have give you as much bang for your buck in all 10 than the Olympic lifts. And I think that we've talked about this before, but we get so obsessed with, there's a cleans on the board. It's a strength day, and that's very true. But it's also a skill day. And so if we can find a way to get exposure to the movement, to the timing, to the positions, that's going to really help us out. So I try really hard in CrossFit classes to see 2 out of the 3 per week. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's a little bit more, a little bit less, but long-term, that's going to be a pretty good homeostasis for seeing improvement there. And for me personally, like when I'm looking at, so we've talked about how to build a good lesson plan for lifting day. I don't encourage people immediately to change their programming. I think now let's think about how to do a better job when these days do come up. And so one thing that I've done that I've found a lot of success with is either myself or work with our coaches, like let's build 10 lesson plans for 10 snatch days as if it was just a 10 class snatch progression. And then whatever programming you're using, if you want to substitute your day one snatch for whatever the programming has, do that 10 times in a row. You'll see really good progress with your snatches there, because sometimes too much variance can limit like progression. And I wouldn't do that year round, but if you're like, hey, let's really focus on our snatches for the next 10 weeks, that would be an easy way to improvement. Write 10 lesson plans and then substitute those for the next 10 snatch days in your gym. That would be a really great way to improve the quality of movement without increasing how often you're doing the movement.
Love that. Yeah, I always, when I was programming, is like I wanted either a clean or a snatch every week. And I didn't really think about the, obviously I know the clean and jerk are both Olympic weightlifting movements, but those show up, but I didn't think of that and to get it to 3. Also thinking of that though, knowing for myself, I went through a little while where I think it was like on Sundays at seminars, I was doing jerks like every Sunday on seminars. And I think at that time I was snatching the best because my lockout was better than it normally was. And it was like the correlation there. And so to your point, like mixing in 3 of those each week makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. And just a quick caveat, like if you have a strict press day, a push press day, I would consider that jerk work as well for a CrossFit.
Okay.
So like,
we're not having to be literal. You don't have to program
lift,
snatch, lift, clean and jerk, lift. You can, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned this earlier. So do you call reps with loads? If so, what percentage do you stop? And I mentioned this earlier. It's like a lot of coaches, myself included, like we go through the progressions, we teach with the empty barbell. Then it's like, hey, take X number of minutes to load up. And then we're going to start our lifting sets at Y. Do you call deliberate reps in those first few rounds of loading? Does it vary? What's your thoughts there?
I don't. Once we get to loading, I want each athlete to have ownership of their setup, their breathing, their balance, and I want them to go when they're ready. If I want to have control of the time, what I'll do is an EMOM or every 2 minutes or something like that. And so that way they know when they're supposed to go. Their teammate knows when to look for them to go. But I'm not trying to like set and go with 60%. That's just that's tough, right? They need, well, 1, ownership, and then 2, make sure they're actually ready to go with some weight. So that's what I do.
Nice. Now I know we're getting close on time here, but there was one more thing I wanted to discuss, and this was something that you pulled out at Affiliate Con, which I thought was awesome, which was snatch golf.
Yeah. This is perfect. This kind of wraps up the whole day, actually.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Okay. Snatch golf. A couple reasons I like snatch golf is that 1, I don't play real golf because I'm too busy lifting weights. But it's fun, right? It's fun. Snatching should be fun. Lifting should be fun. And so snatch golf, my favorite way to play it. And if you guys send me a message, I'll send you like a scorecard I have for this, which is really cool. Makes it easy, makes it fun. But it's basically my favorite way to play it is 9 rounds, 9 holes, because it fits really well into a class time. And my favorite way is to play with teams of 3. And basically in a team of 3, 1 teammate will lift every 40 seconds. You can give percentage ranges. You can let them build to a heavy for the day if you want to. I think if I was going to use, Melissa, send me a message and I'll get that to you. It's a really good way to reinforce and to recognize good movement, not just how much weight's on the bar. Like think of Olympic day at your gym. How often do we kind of know who the heavy lifters are going to be? And if you think about it, they are maybe disproportionately getting a lot of attention and praise where everyone deserves just as much credit. So how do you get that to them? And so the idea is if you have a perfect lift, no faults, you get 0 points. And that's the goal, is to have 0 across the board for all 9 lifts. My favorite, and you can change these variables depending on how your gym is moving. But my favorite is you get 1 point for a press out. So if it counts in CrossFit, that's a point, right? Press out here, that's 1 point. If you step in recovery, so like you receive it and you have to step forward to stand it up, that's 3 points. And then if you miss your lift, that's 5 points.
Okay, so if you step forward and press out, that's 4 points.
4 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will you walk us through how it runs, like how exactly it works? You were starting to say that you have groups of 3, and each person lifts every 40 seconds, or
so each person lifts every 2 minutes.
okay.
So somebody lifts every 40
Someone's
seconds.
lifting every 40 seconds.
Bingo. Yep.
And your teammates are the ones that are essentially scoring you.
Giving the points. Yeah. And
Okay.
so like us 3, we're a team of 3. When I lift, Kristen, you're looking for, did I finish? Did I keep the bar close?
Okay.
So I still want you focused during everybody's lifts. And then Todd, you're going to be the one that scores me.
Okay.
And then we rotate. Todd lifts. I look for finish and bar close. Kristen gives points. And then it's kind of a little bit of a pit crew. It's not stressful. There's enough time, but it keeps everybody engaged for all 3 lifts for all 18 minutes. And it's pretty awesome. And then at the end, Kristen, you're new to my gym and you didn't lift a ton of weight, but you had the highest score because you lifted the best. And I think that's a huge, huge win. Whereas sometimes we're looking for, okay, you didn't lift much, but how do I make you feel awesome about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just the game in itself can really help with that. And we've had stints where we'll kind of do what I talked about a minute ago. Hey, we're going to do a snatch golf phase. The next 8 times we snatch, it's snatch golf. We'll change the time domain. We'll change what the points are, things like that. But we'll keep the points the same. But every 6 weeks, we're going to increase the weights, right? So the first week is 40 to 60%. You pick your weights in there, but if you take a chance and miss, you might get some points, or you might press it out. And then we keep increasing the weight over the 6 weeks. I've seen a lot of success with that. Keep the rules the same, add the weight as you go. Over 6 weeks, you'll see PRs, you'll see better movement. I think you'll see culturally people excited about snatching, chasing skill.
Better technique.
Maybe
making the decision on their own. I'm already picturing this, like people making the decision on their own to not jump up in weight when they shouldn't, because they're more focused on getting more points or less points, I guess. Yeah.
And no matter, this is a weightlifter's curse. Okay. Every single meet I've ever done, if I go 6 for 6, I'm like, man, I was really timid with my weights. I should have gone heavier. Doesn't matter my placing. I'm like, dang it, I should have put more on, even if I PR'd on a platform. You miss a lift and you're like, dang it, I knew I shouldn't have taken that weight. So like,
you can't win.
You're never happy, no matter what happens. It's a very dark, sad thing. But same, giving them ownership to where they can make a decision, take action, and then there's self-feedback there that's like, you don't have to talk about it. It's just like, it's awesome. It's pretty great.
And I like how the scores on objective things, because you made mention of like, you're looking for a perfect rep. I'm like, oh man, bar path, hip extension. How are we going to score that? But you're like the press out and the step or miss lift, like that makes it pretty objective. And ultimately over time, in order for those things to happen consistently, the bar path probably needs to be pretty good. They're probably going to have to keep their back tight, keep their balance on their feet, get to full extension, all of that kind of stuff. So I love that. That's such a cool way to do that. And like I said, I remember watching it at Affiliate Con. I wasn't there for the debrief, and I saw everybody doing it, but I didn't know exactly the rules. So I know everybody was having a great time. Yeah.
It's also fun because like now each person's invested in each other's movements. It's like you can even play it to where, like, if we're a team of 3, it's our team score. There's a lot of ways to do it. That like just getting in your mind that like chasing heavyweight isn't. Well, hold on. Chasing heavyweight is the goal. But how you get there is by chasing performance, improvement, predictions, all these things. And so I love that game. And again,
gamifying anything, like we make a game to something, it's going to be a little bit more fun, right?
We need it so bad. We need it so bad.
Well, how often do you have coaches that ask the question, or like, how do I deal with the member who just wants to add more weight and only cares about their score, and they won't listen to me, they won't scale, they won't take weight off the bar, and it typically is the result of the incentive and the gold star that people get at that gym is based on the leaderboard, who lifted the most weight, who got the fastest time. Well, we as human beings are always going to chase that incentive. And so if you can flip the dynamic on the incentives, which is exactly what this is, where now the incentive is doing it right as opposed to lifting the most weight, you're going to have people being, psychos that are now chasing that and they want the lowest score. And it's like, Cody, why did you use an empty barbell the entire session? Well, I wanted to make sure I hit everything perfectly. And I'm like, well, I want you to lift some weight, but at the end of the day, I'm probably not too disappointed on the fact that you moved nearly, as well as you possibly could. And we're smart with that. So I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I'm also just laughing, and I'm sure people listening to this will relate to what's going on in my brain. The idea of explaining this to like my 9 a.m. class, like the point system and how it all works and everything. It's like, okay, I've got to be very prepared and have a plan for how I'm going to explain how this all works.
I have, and if everybody else wants this, I have a 90-second clip of me briefing it at Affiliate Con. So it can be done in 90 seconds. This was, it can, I'll upload it to YouTube. If you send me a message, I'll get it to you. It's brief, but
perfect.
You'll be fine, Kristen. You'll be okay.
Yeah. We'll see if we can get that from you. And
first, I've got to learn how to play golf. Then
yeah, exactly. Do I have to have golf clubs for this?
Yes.
No, I think it'll be great. It'll be great. But again, it's just another thing. Like, prepare before you brief your group. Make sure that you understand what you're going to explain to them before you start to try to explain.
Also, the first time you do it is the only time that it will be complicated.
For sure. And then everybody gets it. And
it's easy. Snatch golf. Rad. We're set. Okay. You can probably start the clock in 5 minutes. You know, like it's really fun. Just to back up 1 second, Todd. I love what you said about that member that wants to perform. They're always lifting heavy weights. They're chasing heavy weights. Instead of you now having to be like the negative coach, it's like, yeah, but you didn't blank. You don't have to say that because like it's just built into the dynamic of the game. Mm-hmm. And so now you get to be, hey, good job today, Gary. And they get to self-regulate, like, oh, maybe I could change my priorities here. And so it's conflict-free improvement, which is like, that's kind of a win in our gym.
That's right? Awesome.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Well, so cool. We'll have to do our best to get that out. We'll get with Christian afterwards, see if we can get that in the knowledge and potentially on our YouTube or Instagram, so we can maybe collaborate on that, on a post for that, to make sure that everybody gets a chance to see that, and then get a scorecard out.
Cool.
The other thing I wanted to ask you really quick, because we talked a lot about like the Burgener warm up and the Burgener skill transfer. Is that something that coaches can just Google and look up to find that, or do you have that on your site?
I can just tell you all 10 right now if you want.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Go to burgenerstrength.com.
Tell us to it and we'll do it. And Christian will drop that in the chat.
If you sign up for a course, we'll give you the 10. So
there you go.
The Burgener warm up is 5. Down and finish, elbows high and outside, muscle snatch. Snatch power lands, 2, 4, 6. Snatch full lands, your bottom position. That's the Burgener warm up. Skill transfer is a snatch grip push press, overhead squat, heaving snatch balance, drop snatch, snatch balance. So the Burgener warm up is kind of all about getting the bar up. Snatch balance is getting skill transfer exercises is about getting your body down. Do all 10 of those, 3 reps each. Takes 2 minutes with PVC. Make you a better person.
Love it.
100% better person.
100% better person.
For sure. More money in your bank account. Better partner, better husband, you name it.
Can I have one more thing too to back up way up?
Yeah.
Scaling range of motion for the snatch, specifically, and the clean. The split snatch is a really underutilized tool in lifting for CrossFit. It allows you to get deeper and more stable than a power, but not as deep as a squat variant. But it keeps your torso so upright that eventually we're all going to turn into split snatchers. Who knows when or why? Probably ankles or shoulders at some point. But the split snatch is a great option. It doesn't mean that we abandon trying to improve ankles and shoulders, but in the meantime, it could be great. Or long-term, maybe it's your better version. So in addition to range of motion, you can tweak that version to a split. Huge win there that's underutilized.
Oh man, I feel like this can take us down a rabbit hole. So all right, we've had some members that have done this, right? Especially you fall down the rabbit hole. You find some Coach B videos of him coaching and telling people to, like, you are never squat snatching, you're only split snatching from here on out. In a class, you have that person. I would assume it's like, hey, we're still going to go through the PVC work that you've detailed earlier in this. But when we switch to the barbell on the 3 position, you're probably going to give them the nod or the wink of like, this is your time to go ahead and split into that split snatch or transition into the split snatch. Is that right?
That's correct. I'm going to have 2 groups of people that are split snatching. One, hey, you're split snatching for now, but we have the stuff to get you squat snatching down the road. And there's, hey, you were a split snatcher forever. So you know that once we get to barbell, we may not even need a nod at that point. You just know that that's your snatch. So those are the 2 groups I would say, hey, let's split today. And then the group that just knows that they split snatch forever.
Fun fact, what was it? Was it 2010 CrossFit
Are
Games?
you the year that they did it with the dumbbells?
Yeah, 2009, the alternating.
Alternating with the barbell, wasn't it?
Alternating.
Oh, was it with the barbell?
Was it 9? I think it was 10, wasn't it?
You might
was
be
it
right.
the stump oven?
They were on a track. I remember that. And it was really confusing because they had to do a different foot each time.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mandatory switching of the feet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys should program that at your gym coming up.
It might show up in the open. You never know.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you never know.
All right, last question here. Let's see. Do you think there are some of us with naturally internally rotated shoulders, others and other anatomy issues that just will never be able to squat snatch well?
Yeah, you should probably quit. No, for sure.
The delivery on that, I was like, oh, what?
Yeah, have you considered high rocks? No, I think here's the deal. Everybody comes genetically with a package that has pros and cons, or maybe not even genetically, but based on how I've trained up until starting doing this stuff, the goal is that we all want to see improvement. So if I already have really good shoulder mobility, stability, I have good geometry where I can just naturally squat deep with an upright torso. Okay, so the quality of my positions is not a limiting factor early on. So now what I'm going to work on is timing, speed, strength, durability, and go from there. If you have a limitation in your shoulders, your ankles, now your priority is to work on those things. What I found too is, we teach external rotation with internal torque, and a lot of people, they start to lose it because their torso tips forward. So as the torso tips forward, that doesn't mean what's going to happen is you are going to lose some of it. That doesn't mean that we surrender. Where you really get value is by trying to rotate, by like actively working on this. So even if you lose some of that tug of war and you lose this, don't surrender to it, but keep fighting it. And that's going to actually really keep your shoulders stable. And then as you recover, as you stand up from that bottom position and your torso gets more upright, now you've already got the pressure on that to improve it. So another thing that helps is receive it. Do this with your lighter reps. Stick it where your shoulders are perfect, and then slowly ride down until you lose it. Come up, improve it, kind of work from there. Drill that a little bit. And then in addition to, doing your mobility drills, stability drills for the shoulders. But yeah, everyone's going to have limitations. If yours is shoulders, spend some extra time on the shoulders and even just bias your shoulder. Like that's your main focus when you snatch, is focus on that position, let everything else kind of be secondary and go from there. And then I would say work on those ankles. If the ankles are getting better, everything else is set up for success uphill.
Love it. Oh man, as always, such a great discussion. I know we've got a big list of topics that we want to talk about, so we will definitely have you back on again.
Cool.
Where can people reach out to you to get that scorecard? We're going to try to get the description and the scorecard out so people in the Best Hour ecosystem can see it, but where can they go directly to you to get it?
Easiest, just send me a message on Instagram at Looney Cody. Best way to get a hold of me. I try to get a lot of content up there as well too, so fun stuff there. You can also find where I've got my next upcoming courses. We've got a kiddo number 2 due in April, so I've got a pretty busy January through March, and then got some time off, and then I'm gonna hit it hard at the end of the year. But I'll be in Boise in February, Portland in March, Boulder, Colorado in May, and I've got gonna be getting around. Hopefully, gonna get another little world tour on the back half with some international courses, but gonna pound the Western U.S. mostly in 26, stay a little bit closer to home. So
That's awesome.
yeah, send me a message there. Go to burgenerstrength.com for a course nearby. And can I just tell them the discount code on this? Okay.
Yeah,
so
up to you. Yeah.
Anyone affiliated with Best Hour gets a 10% discount on our courses. So don't share this publicly, but just use the code Best Hour, one word, and save yourself 10% on any course. Burgener Strength was such a huge fan of everything that you guys do. Not only Todd and Kristen, but all of you coaches, all you affiliate owners. It's just awesome to see the improvement that we're all making in our space, and we love working together, and we want to hook you guys up. So Best Hour for any course for you and your coaches.
Awesome.
We appreciate that. That's
yeah.
super cool. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much, man. Look forward to having you on the next one. All right, dude. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. Now, if you're a coach who wants to coach more effectively, impact your members, and advance your career, then the Knowledge Pro is the next step. Inside, you'll get hundreds of coaching videos, weekly calls with level 4 coaches, and direct feedback on your coaching. From homework reviews to full class breakdowns, we do it all. This is the best way to grow as a coach and take your skills to the next level. Now you can join the Knowledge Pro at besthouroftheirday.com/the-knowledge. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Now keep coaching, keep improving, and we'll see you next time.